Welcome to one of the most iconic buildings in the world. Well, more like 5 buildings, that is. The Monster Building in Hong Kong is a group of 5 connected buildings located on Yao Man Street. If this looks familiar, it's because you've seen it in movies like 2017's Ghost in the Shell and Transformers: Age of Extinction in 2014. Believe it or not, as massive as this structure is, it's only 18 stories high. But even then, this enormous block of buildings keeps the streets below in a perpetual shadow. All 5 buildings are joined together and look like a giant letter E when viewed from above. And inside, it holds 2,243 units with 10,000 residents. Some people call this building the densest place on Earth. Built in the 1960s, this housing block was split into 5 blocks: the Fook Chong Building, the Montaigne Mansion, the Oceanic Mansion, the Yik Chang Building, and the Yik Fat Building. Initially, the government built this building and provided housing for the poor and refugees from the Chinese mainland. And believe me when I say the Monster Building is a step up from the apartment buildings of the past. Long ago, Hong Kong held a building known as Kowloon Walled City. Once a fort used by the Chinese military, it eventually became a self-contained city. But once you stepped inside these walls, there was no certainty that you'd come back out. The origins of this outpost go back to the Song dynasty, which lasted from 960 to 1279. Over the next few hundred years, the tiny trading post grew as it traded hands from the Chinese to the British to the Japanese, and then back to China in 1946. No longer a place to hold soldiers, this city became a haven for refugees. Factories and small businesses popped up within these walls, and buildings went as high as 14 stories. The walled city soon held over 350 buildings. They were all so tightly packed together that it looked like one massive structure. It was a visual mess of mixed building materials and cables. Residents said that once you entered, you left the daylight behind. Not surprising, because a lot of the business within these walls happened in the dark. Many unlicensed doctors and physicians operated clinics inside, and most of their patients came from people outside the city walls. These people were looking to pay rock-bottom prices with no questions asked. Soon, gangsters ran drugs, gambling, and other vices out of this area, which became totally lawless. Over 50,000 people lived within the 2.6-hectare border until April 1994, when the government of Hong Kong completely demolished it. Now, a park sits on the graveyard of this once sprawling little empire, with only a few relics acting as its headstones. But the spirit of its people lives on in this megastructure today. The Monster Building is a composite building, which means you can find apartments, shops, and workplaces. If you lived here, you could find everything you need, from restaurants, salons, and even an underground mall right outside your front door. A stroll around this building would take you back to old Hong Kong, with the smell of street food and sounds of urban life. Hong Kong is known as the concrete jungle, and this building emphasizes that concept. Dense populations in small areas where functionality outweighs aesthetics. This building behemoth may not look photogenic at first, but it's become one of the city's most iconic sights. Tourists come from all over the world to snap a photo of the courtyards at night, trying to get a perfect shot of the night sky and bright lights of the homes within. Check out all these Instagram posts. The colors pop in every photo, creating an almost surreal architectural landscape. You won't find courtyards like this in other newer buildings. Developers use every bit of space in the concrete jungle of Hong Kong. This building is truly a look into the past. And if you come here for your photo shoot, respect the people inside. But hey, maybe you're waiting to live here. Well, start saving up now. It could cost over $500,000 to buy an apartment here. If that's too steep, maybe you can rent for about $1,800 per month. But what are you getting for that price? The average apartment in this building isn't any bigger than 40 square meters. That isn't big enough for a small kitchen, a cramped bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. Some owners have even converted these apartments into 2 to 3 mini apartments, which the locals call coffin homes. These tiny little apartments are about 8 square meters and rent for $150 daily. Yeah, that's not exactly legal. And the living conditions aren't exactly sanitary either. Living in an apartment smaller than a parking space means you'll have to share a bathroom and other utilities with your neighbors. years. But in a city where the divide between rich and poor is insanely huge, the choice between sleeping in a cramped room and a cage bed doesn't seem hard. So why are things so expensive here? Well, the areas outside the city are filled with mountains that can't be developed, and 75% of Hong Kong's land is protected. Every space is a valuable commodity, no matter how small or cramped. In fact, only 7% of the land here is allowed for housing, meaning that a dense population is crammed into buildings like this. The district of Kowloon has a population density of 49,000 people per square kilometer. Keep in mind that's double the amount of people in Manhattan in the same space. That's a piece of old Hong Kong, for better or worse. But what does the new face of Hong Kong look like? It lies here at the Jockey Club Innovation Tower, located at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. This structure was built to be a beacon symbolizing and driving the development of Hong Kong as a design hub in Asia. This architectural wonder sits where the university once held its football fields and tennis courts, but now it hosts one of the most spectacular sites in Hong Kong. Just take a walk along the long path from Sun Chi Sun Memorial Square to the building so that you can appreciate this megastructure's features from the ground first. When you enter the building, you're greeted by a vast open area over 2 levels tall that holds a shop, cafeteria, and even a museum. Completed in 2014, the Innovation Tower only takes up 15,000 square meters, but holds entire worlds inside. Here, you can find up to 1,800 students and staff working in design studios, labs, workshops, and multifunctional classrooms within the 15 stories. This is truly a learning center like no other on the planet, built and designed by the late Zaha Hadid. It features her signature design of concentric forms and futuristic style. When discussing her project, the architect said, "The fluid character of the Innovation Tower is generated through an intrinsic composition of its landscape, floor plans, and louvers that dissolve the classic typology of the tower into an iconic, seamless piece." Glass doesn't just line the windows, it's in the walls, a design process called interior glazing. This creates an environment that fosters connectivity and interaction. Innovation Tower uses the space and long corridors to let people inside admire every shape and design choice. The classroom inside supports various learning styles, removing the traditional model of the past. From the open spaces to the bright light that floods inside, students are taught in what the architect describes as flexible, barrier-free classrooms. Swivel seats allow students to change positions comfortably in multiple positions. Many tables and furniture are equipped with casters and tiny wheels at the bottom of the support legs, enabling full customization of any space at any time. Some of these workspaces even include storage spaces for students' bags and books. Yeah, this isn't the stuffy classroom of yesterday. The Innovation Tower breeds success on every level, with the communal spaces and circulation routes giving students and staff from every discipline the opportunity to collaborate in exciting new ways. The lecture hall holds 300 seats, and the state of the auditorium features theater-level acoustics. This building was meant to reflect the changing landscape of architecture in Hong Kong and make an environment meant to engage students and staff, whether they're having small, intimate conversations, team building, or speaking events. It's free for visitors to come and tour. Just be mindful of the classes in session. So, what's the price tag on this building of the future? Over 249 million Hong Kong dollars, almost 32 million in US dollars. Yeah, building in Hong Kong and living here isn't cheap. But one thing is certain, in the concrete jungle, life isn't dull or surface level. Everything rises to the top in this vertical city.